We'll get into it. Hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ, and I'm here with when Dan was when I was gone the last time. Dan said, "My main man, Colin." I'm here with my main man, Colin. What's up, dog?
Did he really call me that? I don't remember that.
It reminds me of there's some South Park episode where some foreign person keeps calling Stan's dad, "My man." Hello, my man.
Yeah, as if Dan should have gotten up, turned his seat around, and sat on it backwards, like
an
AC
Slater.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a good pod because we're on the same page already.
I mean, Saved by the Bell.
Yeah. I mean, that was the show when we were kids, man. What was the place to call where they hung out?
The Max.
The Max. That's right.
Which was like a from the wallpaper and the squiggly neons. It was so painfully 90s that it looked like a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper or something like
100%. That's the best way to describe it. I always wonder, if you're a server there and you're serving all high school kids, does anybody tip you? Or just you're getting paid $2.13 an hour?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe it's more.
California. Maybe it was set up like a college. Like they had a meal plan that their parents just dump money
for
into.
High school.
Yeah.
Wow, this Saved by the Bell speculation podcast is going super well so far.
Well, I mean, off-season talk. I mean, let's get. Here we go, folks. Mark Paul Gossler is coming on the line with us right now. No, I'm kidding.
You talk football. I mean, maybe he's a football fan. I don't know.
Well, what bothers me about him is he doesn't have the blonde hair anymore. He's been like a brunette forever, and I'm just like, that's not you. Go back, bleach that hair, man. Let's get weird with it.
I'm sure. Have they not wanted to do a reunion for the show? Maybe none of them can. Wait, Screech is dead though.
Did Screech?
I'm pretty sure. Dustin Diamond is dead. Yeah.
Oh, what a sad story that was. He was an outcast. No one cared about him on the show. He was a couple years younger, and he just felt like he was thrown in there because he was a nerdy character, and then no one cared about him.
Then he made a sex tape and later on passed away. That's not funny. Very tragic life, really, if you think about it. But I want to switch gears. I want to switch gears because this is actually a big week for me because Green City is this weekend. Green City being the Other Half Brewery beer festival that they usually throw every year. This is the first one in 3 years since the pandemic and whatnot. But the best thing is because it's basically a who's who in brewery names from around the country. And all the brewers come in and make collaboration beers with all the New York breweries. It's going to be so much good beer to drink. And I'm still pushing Colin to come with me.
Yes.
You're on the fence, but I'm going to tell you, it's awesome. You're there for 4 hours. You just drink your face off. There's professional wrestling and food trucks. The crowd is always awesome. And I mean, you're going with me and my brother. It's going to get silly, but I'm leaving the ball in your court, whatever you want.
I sincerely wish I could attend. Steph and I are going to be doing a round of golf with her father on Saturday because he's not available on Sunday. So that's what we're doing. However,
that's cool though.
As much as I would like
drink
to
beer
go,
when you go golfing too.
Yeah, certainly not as much as you guys inevitably will be, but I'm trying to get in a flow of things because I went on Friday with a couple of our hometown younger brethren.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, on your Instagram. Some of the younger kids from Somers High School.
Very, very fun. Very fun with people for the most part who are much better than I at golf. So I was able to learn some things and feel a little bit okay about going again. So it'll be cool. I mean, I like hanging out with him, so it's going to be a good time. And Steph's actually pretty decent at golf too. So I will be going to that with you next year for certain. They have it every same weekend every year.
Every year, man.
Okay.
There's also one called Pastry Town, which is just stouts.
Oh.
That I can't go to because I can't consume that much lactose. It will destroy my insides. But I know you would like it because you're a big stout man.
Yeah, well, stouts are fun though. They're fun, and then they're in little bits. You can't have 12 of them.
No, I mean Scott just chugs that stuff. It's 14%. It's really good, but it's I mean, for me, 8 ounces.
Yeah.
Call it a day. I don't need to drink for 4 hours. Drink that stuff. I'm gonna die.
So
God.
Heavy.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. As usual, please follow Big Blue United on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. BBO Pod Boys with a Z on Twitter. Pigskin Pod at the Pigskin Pod Net on Twitter for the Pigskin Podcast Network. Download that DraftKings app. Use promo code TPPN. Our sponsor today is once again FOCO, and Dan had this really awesome straw hat that looked like a Dave Gettleman would wear, but Dan unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. So Colin's got his FOCO zip up on. I got my FOCO headband back there somewhere, but I put it on, and my hair is just absolutely insane right now. So I felt like I didn't want to alienate the viewers with my disgusting haircut. But we love FOCO.com. They sent us a lot of good stuff. I love that zip up that Colin has, 3/4 zip up he's wearing right now. And really, FOCO is just a great website where you can get pretty much anything sports related, apparel wise. They have basically everything. I saw this really sweet Bengals Tommy Bahama shirt earlier today when I was looking at it. So it's not just, your generic clothing items. They also have some more fun stuff too. I know that's sort of like where the style is going now, is very whimsical patterns on your button-up shirts.
90s style. Oh man. Speaking of which, I love this thing, by the way. I mean, I think this is the second time I'm wearing it on the show. It's actually perfect because I have the air conditioner on in here, and it's one of those weird air conditioners where you can't quite get it perfect, and I'm a little chilly, and this is the perfect layer to be wearing for this. And it's great for, late spring, early summer when you just need another layer, and I love it. But segueing into weird patterns, because I went golfing this past Friday, I forget that you're sort of required to wear a collared shirt to certain golf courses. And I don't really have any polo shirts that are worthy of wearing in that situation. And we went to Target, and I got a couple of polos that are have that. Actually, I'm sure FOCO probably has some. I
100% sell polos with
golf polos,
polo
specifically
logos on them.
Athletic material polos that are good for summertime golfing. I'm going to look on that afterwards.
They legit have everything on there. It's a pretty good website. So yeah, guys, check out FOCO.com. Grab some Giants gear. Gonna need it with training camp in a month and a half, I think it is. Season's starting sooner than you think. So
we definitely have to go. We haven't talked about this. We got to go to training camp.
Oh yeah, we should. It's open to the public for the first time this year in a while, right?
I think we got to go. We got to make a trip of it.
I haven't been to training camp since it was in Albany. That was a while ago.
Yep.
That was a fun trip. I went with me and Kelly Donahue went. And I was living in Albany briefly.
In Troy.
I was living in Albany. I worked in Troy, but we went to, because I lived 10-minute drive from the campus where the training camp was held. So. Went a couple times. It was super fun. But yeah, decent trek. But I'm glad they moved it down to Jersey because it's a little bit faster for us to get there now.
Absolutely. Well, another segue here in terms of training camp. I think I may have told this story on here before. I'm not sure. Of when my mother met Harry Carson, among other players, because they used to practice at Pace. And there's a famous picture of Phil Simms and LT. They used to wear the most garbage practice uniforms back in the 80s.
A lot of half shirts, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, but made out of cotton. They weren't even bothering with the jersey style. It was just a t-shirt that they ripped over their pads and everything. And someone got hurt, and for whatever reason, Harry Carson escorted this hurt player to Phelps Hospital, where my mother was a ER nurse at the time, and got to meet him. He was a sweetheart, and was that's my mom's awesome. Favorite Giants story there. Yeah.
Did your mom go to Pace?
No,
my mom went to Pace, or it was called Good Counsel back then. But
no, my mom went to nursing school. She didn't go to college.
Wow, and look at how we ended up going to college, and now your mom has a beautiful home that she owns. In what, Rhode Island is it?
Well, she's in the process of putting it on the market because she bought a house up near Poughkeepsie.
Oh, nice! Get a little closer to home. See her precious
going to see her tomorrow. I'm going to help unpack some stuff and see the house for the first time. So that's pretty neato.
Oh, cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Giants news. Mini camp's over. No practice till training camp. Guys are going off on their own, doing their own training. Hopefully the red jersey guys are getting their health right. Everybody else is going to maintain and work on their physique and hopefully be studying the playbook. I'm sure not everybody will, but you'd hope that the new regime has instilled the hunger into these guys, at least early on, to, a culture of success and not just one that talks about success and then does a QB sneak in their own territory on the 10. I mean, you can never stop talking about that. It's like the definitive moment of the Joe Judge era.
I'm gonna block it out because it's the most embarrassing football decision, I think, besides probably some of those. What was that awful trick play that the Colts did a couple of years ago on 4th down where they had the punter? They spread everybody out all the way to the left, and it was like 2 linemen and the punter, and he got it from under center, and they'd like try to play some play, and he just got destroyed. And it was like, well, what was the idea in the first place?
The Commanders did it, and the Colts did that too. Yep. And it's just like I guess in the Colts situation, they actually weren't intended to snap the ball and made an error. But in the Washington circumstance, I don't even know. I know we saw that play recently. Someone has shared it on whatever group chat we were on.
It's terrible.
Bizarre. Yeah, I mean, but at least, it's the problem with that play is like you didn't have enough confidence in your offense to even run a play. Yeah. Like that's how poorly you were coaching this team and how badly the injuries were and how bad the personnel was at that point.
Well,
it's just funny.
It's very obvious. That one play defines the entire mentality and era of Joe Judge and what the ownership wanted at the time, because all Joe Judge really cared about was field position. And when you're scared of touchdowns, you don't try to go for them. And in today's NFL, you have to do the opposite, and that's pretty much what this regime is looking to do. And which is, we'll see if it
attack on both sides of the ball. And speaking of which, Colin, I do want to ask you. So, I mean, I guess one of the bigger storylines in the OTAs was that the offense still looks like it needs a lot of work, while the defense is kind of picking up steam faster. I know it's super early, but do you vest any kind of interest into that now, or put any weight on what's going on in the OTA?
No, and we're going to see it again when they come back together in a month or whatever it is to start officially practicing for the season. It's going to be the same thing again, and everyone's got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Almost in every single training camp of any team in the league, the defense always gets the hop on the offense. There's just so many more moving parts, literally and figuratively, in the offensive side that I don't really. The defense is allowed to do things a little more naturally.
Agreed,
you're kind of just rooted in what you have to do for the most part on offense. So, no, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I've read some things here and there where people are like, what we've seen of Daniel Jones, even with this new regime, is he's throwing too many interceptions and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not even paying attention to it. Until you see these guys in real game situations, I'm not really going to care.
I mean, yeah, and it seems like, one of the things I've been hearing the most is that, they want him to force the ball, take those chances, because in practice, that's when you're supposed to make the mistake. Mm-hmm. That's how you identify the mistakes. That's how you clean those things up before the game. But I think what we saw with Daniel Jones is just, a complete, lack of progression, just based on the fact that the last regime refused to let him kind of be himself or take chances or make throws or change the play, because he had a lot of turnover issues. So, I mean, they're going to have to figure out a balance there where they can attack other defenses while also protecting the ball. That being said, maybe Daniel Jones can't do that. So that remains to be seen.
I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised, especially given that one of the things that they're harping on with him is getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Mm-hmm. This might be a little more of a West Coast offense than what Dable has shown with the Bills, which is not a problem. If that means what we're seeing with Barkley being moved around and doing what we've been saying, like throwing him out there. In fact, I saw a picture of him. He looks slimmer. He looks faster, as he looks less hulking, which I think has something to do with how they want to use him. He might just end up being a Swiss Army knife kind of situation, and frankly, it could save his career. So
Agreed. I think you're going to see a lot of the offensive weapons be sort of that Swiss Army knife thing. I mean, there's certain guys that I think will do what they do, like Galladay is going to be on the outside, catching balls, jump balls. You're going to see whoever's a tight end position. I don't think you're going to see them moving around too much. But yeah, you have Tony, Wandale, who I think is going to take a little time to come on. Saquon are all very interesting pieces to move around. I'll be able, their skill sets are somewhat similar in certain situations, but it should be interesting to see if, Wandale we see him in the backfield, we see Tony in the backfield. Maybe we see all three of them in the backfield. I don't know. That's kind of a crazy one. Do the wing T. with two wideouts and Saquon?
I mean, I'm here for it. Who's blocking? That's my question.
Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else should we talk about here? OTAs. I do want to bring up Bellinger again because it seems like he's the most talked about. When I saw an interview with Daboll, he basically was just like, downplaying the situation, saying that there's like a rep chart, not a depth chart. Fine, but if you're on top of the rep chart, then clearly you are on top of the depth chart, you would imagine, because you're getting the most amount of reps. Yeah. So, I mean, do you think Bellinger's going to start day one for this team at tight end?
Because of how thin it is? Well, okay. Yes, and why I say that is literally the first play of the game in the first game of the season, he'll be the starting tight end. That doesn't mean he's going to be the only guy out there all the time. You know what I mean? When you're on the starting 11 sheet, he'll be there, but it won't be like he's only going to be the guy there. It'll probably be a rotation kind of thing. You're going to see plenty of Seals Jones and why am I blanking on the other guy? The Texans guy that we picked up as well.
Yeah, I'm totally blanking on it too.
You're going to see everybody doing a bunch of things, and I think maybe over time during the season you'll see him more than anything else. But it's probably going to be a scrambled eggs for a while. Not to bring that up again because that seems to be what I roll into for the last couple of weeks.
It's a good one, man. Jordan Akins.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the guy can block, and that's what we need the most. And if he can be an extension of the line, and we can help out whoever's going to be out there, great. Have him block first, and then make him be that guy that people just forget about, get lulled to sleep, and then all of a sudden the seam, there he is running his 4.6 right down the middle, and he's ready to catch it. Cool. Be that guy. Be that, not as athletic, be the Kevin Boss. Be the Ballard. Be, even like you want to go back, a little Howard Cross action. Be the blocker first and then be that outlet.
There's any number of successful players in NFL history that have made a living catching the ball and falling down.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Moving the chains, man. That's the most important thing. Security blanket. I know I said this last week, but he's got all those check marks, in my opinion.
I wanted to go back to something you said a little while ago about the players being, training on their own and being ready and like getting into the playbook and stuff like that. I think the fact that the coaching staff is the way it is. Yeah, there's the players coach that can be pushovers. I don't think these guys are pushovers. I think they're the kinds of guys that they implement hope in their players and also the feeling that you don't want to let those guys down. You know what I mean?
They command respect. They don't demand respect. And there's a huge difference.
Precisely.
It's a huge difference. When you're a leader of people, you have to lead by example. You don't just yell and curse and punish people and expect results, especially not with the generation of players they're dealing with now.
Yep.
People want to say that the younger generations are soft. They're not soft. They also just demand respect and want to be treated well and not be treated like crap. It's not that hard, I mean, these guys are making millions of dollars, but still, proper motivation, needs to be studied and it needs to be implemented correctly. And I think that, it's apples and oranges compared to what's going on now with what was going on. Yeah. I mean, some of the Joe Judge stuff was just during training camp when, you got offensive linemen retiring because they're like, I'd rather retire than deal with this. And it's just a prime example of how this hard ass stuff doesn't work. Maybe if you're Bill Belichick, it works because you have 6 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Joe Judge didn't have any Super Bowl rings as a head coach. So
you almost can't fault the guy. I know he was trying to lean into a certain mindset, but he also was naive enough to not understand that he didn't have the clout to be able to actually do that. Maybe someday, maybe he'll become a good coach at some point. All I know is that if him or Matt Patricia are calling the offense with the Patriots, then they got another thing coming.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's see him unleash Mac Jones next year as offensive coordinator for the Patriots.
I don't know. Maybe Bill's got something up his sleeve that we all don't know about. I don't know.
He usually does. Well, up his cutoff sleeve, you mean?
So nothing up his sleeve.
I have to bring up the Jihad Ward interview, which is maybe my favorite interview I've ever seen in a football player. That guy is hilarious, man. Some of the stuff he was saying made me was like laughing out loud. And at the same time, he was coming out and just saying, like, I'm here to make sure these guys are prepared to motivate Thibodeau. I'm not going to say his last name, to motivate Kayvon. I mean, I love this guy. I'm so happy he's on the team. He sort of seems like a very, Wink. He's got to be Wink's right-hand man. They're like very similar. And, I just can't, I have a soft spot for a Southern drawl. It just it just makes me giggle sometimes with some of the phrasing and words that are said.
Well, do you think he's meaning to be funny, or do you think he's just straight up serious and it's just like that's his thing?
I think that's just how he is, and he tells it like it is. And I think more so than just like the comic effect of how he was speaking to a degree. He was basically saying like he's a professional guy. He's there to work. He's there to work hard. He's there to motivate everybody else. And people ask him, they were asking him about being a leader, and he's just like, I'm just prepared to do what I have to do, and that's how I'm a leader. Yeah. And I think that's important. I think it ties into kind of what we were just talking about, which is what this team needs to be doing. Just leading by example, bringing more high character guys into the locker room. I know, we joke about, locker room guys ad nauseum, but to some degree it has to be important, especially when you have, rookies coming in, and we have 2 high drafted rookies who, need to be motivated, you would imagine, or at least being helped to acclimate to the NFL.
It's kind of cool to think about. We now have sort of a very experienced veteran defensive line for the first line of literal defense. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, Blake Martinez behind, and like some of the linebackers are young, but to start with the experience up front, I think is going to go a long way. I mean, even Sexy Dexy at this point, he's a veteran. He's been around. He's looking slimmer. He might have some pass rushing ability that he's going to show that we have not seen yet. I think there are a lot of question marks on the defense, and there are a lot of question marks in the secondary. But I think with starting up front, it might permeate through to the back. And I think there's important enough veteran presence in certain spots that it could tie it all together with the coaching. So
I'm with you. I think we've definitely made it a point to say that this is the most excited we've kind of been as Giants fans in a while. I know we haven't even seen a finished product on the field, but just from the pieces that have been put together, whether it's by John Mara or by Joe Shane or by Brian Dable and the coaching staff right now, I mean, you have to be feeling better. I won't say I want to just jump ahead and say, oh, the Giants are going to be great, but that remains to be seen. And, do you want to hit up a couple more stories? We're going to do a defensive back preview today, but, we saw today Giants are actually $6.2 million under the cap. I guess that's, primarily from the Bradbury situation. But, I mean, hey, I think Shane basically said he wanted to have about $9 million during the season for injuries. So, I mean, are you happy with where they are under the cap, and are you surprised they got there?
Well, what was that from? It was Giants Insider on Twitter, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Well, there was a LOL at the end of that because it's just unfathomable that we can be under the cap right now, which is incredible. I mean, it's great. And he's going to unload more. I mean, how many people are on this squad right now, technically? 90-something before they even cut it down to 53 in August. I think that's a great way to start. The fact that we're at that point now is a great thing. In that same wavelength with Shane, his comment on the injuries was very telling to me because, this is in the kind of part of the year where we start getting worried about all the guys in the red jerseys, and we've got quite a few right now. And I just kind of like, whatever. I'm not going to worry about it because I can't bother myself to. But he had an interesting quote, which I don't think is something we've ever heard a Giants coach ever say, ever, that there's varying levels of injuries, and even guys with a couple of like very low level dings, we're putting in the red jerseys and we're taking real easy on these guys, which is the exact opposite of what we've ever done. Usually it's run them into the ground, make sure they're tired and continuously injured until they get really hurt later on. So I think that's another aspect of the modern outlook of NFL coaching in today's game that is going to be shown.
It should be shamed.
Going to be shamed. But we'll see. I mean, I think someone like Kayvon or even who else is kind of injured right now that we're not too worried about. I mean, Shepard's still got to come back to full health, but I'm not worried about him either. And even Tony, for that matter. It's all these little things. I mean, Tony's orthoscopic knee, get the weird stuff out. That's nothing. That's usually come back after a couple weeks and you're pretty good. They'll probably just be easy on these guys until they know that they can go full speed. So they got some time to recover now. I mean, I don't know how much time exactly do we have until camp starts.
It's like 6 weeks or so,
yeah.
roughly. I mean, I could look up when the date's probably shouldn't. Whatever. It's coming soon this summer. But yeah, I agree, man. I'm just happy that some of the training staff got turned over and we're taking a more pragmatic approach to injury, which Giants have been perpetually one of the most injured teams in the NFL. And that, doesn't make things easy on anybody. But yeah, I think Tony will be healthy. I talked to my insider in the Giants medical office. He said, I asked him if Kadarius Toney had a condition that made his head really cold. Does not. It's not related to any of the injuries he missed games for. But that Kadarius Toney is a very strange man and very difficult to talk to, which I don't see that being so much surprise to me.
And maybe he's just not a communicator. Maybe he's just like a lead by example kind of guy, and he just
I just want to see him catch some balls, man. I don't think leadership qualities is why he got drafted. I think he got drafted because he's a freakish athlete.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's get into our preview this week, which we're going to do defensive backs. I know last week I had mentioned that I thought the inside linebacker spot next to Blake Martinez was either the most or one of the most weak or one of the weakest positions on this defense. But as a whole, I think the secondary is a little thin. Basically, with Bradbury gone, you have Adoree Jackson taking over the number one spot.
Yep.
He's got to go against, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin. He's only 5'11". I think A.J. Brown's particularly a big guy. So it's an interesting thing to me with what Wink is trying to do, where sometimes these guys are left on an island because he wants to bring a lot of blitzers. So if we just want to start with the outside corner position, obviously Adoree Jackson's your number one. I mean, he had an okay year last year. What was it? 71 PFF grade, 34 receptions allowed, 7 passes defense, 1 interception. But I don't know if he really is a true number one corner. I mean, Colin, do you really think he's going to step up and be able to, lock down number one receivers on the outside?
I think they're going to, unfortunately, lean into him to try to this year. I think he's going to be the leader of the cornerback room in general, just because of the sole fact that he's been around longer than everybody else. Maybe it was a transitional kind of year last year, and he wasn't really sure how to unlock his potential in that defense. I think this is a little bit different kind of scenario, obviously. But it starts with the coaching. And what we talked about a little bit before coming on was that interesting Giants.com article about how much respect Wink has for Jerome Henderson, one of the handful of coaches that we retained from the last regime. Henderson's a 16-year coaching vet, and he's highly regarded around the league. And I feel like they're going to work very well together. And I know I've been hammering it down, but I think coaching is going to be so important. And it's going to be obvious when you see players like Adoree Jackson, who may not be that prototypical number one cornerback. Maybe he will be elevated to that level because of the leadership that he has, to put him in the position that will utilize his skill set to the best of his ability, as well as help him out with other people. I mean, you got McKinney, who's coming into his own now. I think he's chomping at the bit to be that leader back there. And I think that's going to be a very interesting development to see how the two of them work together with their communication. I'm sure they're both going to be considered kind of captains of the secondary at this point. And yeah, I mean, I'm more interested to see what's going to happen on the other side of Adoree at this point.
Who's who? I mean, in my mind, I have three names: Jaron Williams, Rodarius Williams, Aaron Robinson are the three names that pop out to me. I also think that they might go outside the organization. I've heard Jimmy Smith a lot. Who, was with Wink in Baltimore. Chris Harris, another guy I've heard. I know. Bring up Sam Prince. Mentioned Joe Hayden. All those guys are veteran presences that I think could be gotten for cheap and brought in here. That being said, if I look at these three guys, I mean, Jaron Williams last year, I don't think he is going to project to be a starter on this defense, but he did start last year a couple games and he did play well. So I think if you're in a jam, he's definitely a guy that's going to make this team and can contribute even as a starter if you have to have him in there. But overall, you got to think like Aaron Robinson's probably the guy. I think he had a good rookie year until he got hurt. He's 6'1", almost 200 pounds. He's a big dude. He's got the size to play outside. Plus, you don't really need him to go inside anymore. You have Williams, you have Darnay Holmes, you have Cordell Flott as well in the slot. I mean, who do you think is going to end up being on the other outside corner?
I think it's going to be Aaron Robinson as long as he stays healthy and is able to make that next step. However, I did see an interesting article from Empire Sports Media saying that the sleeper that could possibly be a guy that you would not expect to punch out to the outside is Darnay Holmes. You would normally think of him as a slot guy only, but I think he's got a bit of a skill set that if he really comes along to the mental aspect of the game and be sound with his assignments, he's got the physical tools. Even though he might be a little more slight in stature, he might be able to be a spot outside guy, especially if this defense ends up being the tried and true Martindale defense where you're kind of the Swiss Army knife kind of guy back there too. I mean, there's people being rolled around. The whole point is to have versatile people be able to cover different positions. That way you can keep the offense on their toes and hopefully confuse them into making mistakes. So I think you're going to see a lot of different characters out there on the two and giving as many opportunities to anybody who could possibly take it. And you can include Julian Love in that conversation as well.
Throw some mud at the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big kind of off season for that sort of thing. I mean, I know I mentioned it last week or the week before or whatever, but I mean, even the idea of going with three safeties at once, like Deion Grant back in the day, you might even be seeing that kind of thing. So, yeah, Aaron Robinson, I think, is going to be the guy with the job to lose there. But I wouldn't be surprised. Similarly, to the tight end position, it might be a rotation of sorts.
I could see that. And, the one thing, I kind of gathered when I was doing my research for this episode was, the Giants do have a lot of young talent at this position, a lot of unproven guys in their second, third, first year that all have potential to really make a step. So as much as this position is thin, I think you have people with potential to jump in there and make an impact. It definitely helps. There's nobody there. Everyone's got a shot. Everyone's going to be trying their hardest. The competition's going to be fierce. It's going to be good. Hopefully it'll bring out the best in some of these young players, and hopefully the coaching staff will be able to nurture, that competition, really create, really what the Giants want to do is create a vaunted secondary so that they are able to bring the pass rush up front with you guys there. So whether or not we see someone from the outside, we see Aaron Robinson jump in there. It'll be interesting battle in training camp to see how that plays out. And I want, you did mention Darnay Holmes. So if you want to jump into the slot position, for me, I'm just going to probably pencil Flott in there. I know he's a rookie, but you had basically two slot corners on your roster already in Robinson and Holmes. And then you went out and spent a third-round pick on this guy. So clearly they wanted him on this team. Wink wanted him in his defense. He saw things there that he wanted to use. So I think you're going to see a lot of him in the slot. You're going to see a lot of him early. I think he's not like a press corner like Robinson is, but he can play man. He can play zone.
And he's natural too. Like he's very good with the instinct.
Yeah, exactly. And when he has the ball in his hands, he can do damage too. So if he's going to be a guy who's going to take chances, try to be a ball hawk, maybe they'll give him that opportunity to jump some routes and stuff like that. You never know. If not, I'm sure we'll see him on special teams, but I like Flott penciled in there as a starter, but I do think you'll see a rotation at that position. Yeah. Any thoughts on the slot or?
Yeah. I mean, I think Well, I was going to make a joke. We have so many slot receivers. Maybe some of them will go on defense, and we'll interchange there. Everybody will play each other's positions since they're going to be playing against each other in practice so much. I just wanted to throw out there. I mean, in terms of the slot, yeah, that it's a natural kind of rotational position anyway until someone locks that down during the season. Which even so, I mean, you see teams across the league. Yeah, there's some guys that are known for playing there, but you're not really hearing a lot of guys that are just like, oh, he's just like the premier slot corner. You kind of lean into can you play the slot well and also the outside? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those weird positions where it's very important, but I feel like it doesn't get the respect that it should. But yeah, I mean, you have the rookies that can grab at it and have it, and if they do, great. If we have to put someone in like Julian Love to be that guy too, I think we have some options. I think a lot of people went into this offseason, even after the draft, still worried about the secondary. Well, we worked on our pass rush, and remember our secondary in the last Super Bowl we won was very mediocre. Actually, even the that one was better than the 2007 Super Bowl run. That was less good with James Butlers of the world and whatever. That was all the pass rush. So we might be just talking about this for naught. They might look incredible, and they're not even that incredible just because, we're getting to the QB like we haven't in a very long time. So
I mean, you'd hope so, man, because I feel like if you're not going to get to the passer and you're going to blitz a lot, and I think that makes you easy to game plan against. You can pick on dudes, but I think my pay grade's way too low to figure out what Mike Martindale is going to do by watching a couple practices and interviews from OTAs. Before we jump into safety, I mean, I just want to mention a couple other guys that I thought were kind of interesting. One being Maurice Canady. It got autocorrected to Canada on my laptop. But a guy who spent 4 years at the Ravens, one with the Jets, started 6 games for the Cowboys last year, has 38 starts under his belt. So, I mean, someone who I like to be on this team just with a veteran presence and has starting ability, can start if you have to, run into those injuries. I mean, there's a bunch of dudes from the Ravens. Khalil Dorsey. Who else? That's it. Okay. But I mean, still funny. But yeah, there's a bunch of undrafted free agents.
It's kind of like getting these guys for not only good guys to just throw in there and know Wink's defense. It's sort of guys that are acting as translators. They know how to speak the defense, so they can teach as well as they can be the teachers on the field when Wink can't run out there in the middle of a play, and I think that's an overlooked aspect of Dan's favorite thing of locker room presence, guys. It just is. I mean, that is an important aspect of things, especially when you're transferring to a different defense and a different, coaching staff. So I'll take any Raven cornerback ever.
I mean, they bring in guys because they know the system. They have a good work ethic. I'm sure there's plenty of other guys that know the system that didn't want to bring in, whether or not these guys are there to make the team or do what you just said. It's a great addition to have early on, in my opinion. Want to jump into safety. Obviously, I think the best player in the secondary is Xavier McKinney, as you mentioned before. Total lock to be starting. I think, the ceiling is high. Pro Bowl ceiling in my mind, sooner than later. I mean, I'm just really excited to just see him play a whole year as a starter. And I think he's like the kind of player that Wake Martindale is like salivates over, when he takes this job. Yeah. What is it? His second or third year at the most?
Yeah. He's younger than I thought he was.
I mean, I said Aziz will be the best Gettleman pick. I stand by that, but I think McKinney will be a close, second or third to that. But really the question is, and I want to ask you because you did bring up Julian Love a lot, potentially being moved to the corner position. I kind of see him as the starter across from McKinney at the beginning with Ryan and Peppers gone. Yeah. No one really else on the roster with any experience besides him that has his ability. That being said, I don't really think Julian Love has proven to me that he is like a starter in this league. He's definitely a very capable backup. And I think in like some of those 3 safety sets, if that did exist again, he's definitely a great, person to throw in there.
Totally.
What I do imagine happening more at that safety spot is I see Love probably starting early, and then I think Dane Belton is going to come in and take over that spot quickly. Belton is exactly what they want. He's super versatile. He can play the corner. He can go down to the box. He can play safety. He can play nickel. Kind of move him all over the place. 4.43 40, 5 picks last year in college, 4th round pick. I mean, I think he's going to jump up and be that guy. And then I think you might see Love move more into the role that you're describing. What do you think?
I think that's exactly how it's going to go, especially in the beginning. I think you're going to see Belton in packages. He'll be the Deion Grant for a while. And the difference here is Deion Grant was a savvy veteran guy who had a good brain, but his physical attributes were on the decline. So the difference here is Belton has to learn the defense. So he's going to have the physical attributes, but not as many of the responsibilities. So you put him in on that third spot as like a quasi linebacker, probably bring him towards the line a little bit, give him some blitzing because, Wink's going to throw some randos out there, like people you don't expect to be blitzing, and not have him overloaded by the playbook early on until he acclimates himself. And then you'll see a switch, and you'll see Love turn into that ultimate utility guy where you'll see him in all sorts of packages all over the place. But that's like a luxury at that point.
I think that's where he'll succeed too, is not necessarily being a starter at a position, but moving around and being put in places where he can succeed in certain circumstances. I think you're going to see a lot of that this year. I think you're going to see a defense that caters to their personnel. The safety position is kind of weak, so I can also see them going out and bringing in a veteran presence as well.
Sure.
I'm not sure who that might be, but I mean, as of right now, there's 5 safeties on the roster with Yusuf Corker, Henry Black. Yusuf was undrafted free agent. Henry Black's a guy. He was also undrafted free agent for the Packers. He did play in 17 games last year, so that is a quality person to have as a backup. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to think that they'll probably look outside. At least maybe they won't bring someone in, but it's definitely a conversation they're having. You'd have to imagine. So we can land on our 4 starters kind of being Adoree Jackson, Aaron Robinson, Xavier McKinney, Julian Loves that transitions into Dane Belton quickly. Yep. I like that too.
With the kind of, rotating
Oh yeah, the slot. We'll see Flott or Holmes or and then until someone really grasps that position.
It might be a turnstile of sorts for a while until they figure out who's going to be locking down the slot.
Underwater.
You missed out on talking about that, unfortunately.
I did, yeah, and I did laugh a little bit when you were like, TJ hadn't been in a mosh pit in 15 years, and then he's like telling me to go into it. I was like, I had zero thought in my mind that I would ever be in a mosh pit that night, but it was just too hard not to, man. The songs, it would, I had drank enough that I was like not, tired or how do you want to say? What do you say when you drink too much? Kind of
you just shot.
I wasn't shot. I was like energized.
Yeah.
I had just the amount of alcohol, right amount of alcohol and vape pen that I was ready to go. And I had a blast, man. It was so fun.
And was that not the happiest, aggressive type crowd you've ever been in? Like there were not morons kicking each other and punching each other.
People were chill, man. That. One guy gave me a shot in the stomach. I think it was on purpose.
Punched you?
And he elbowed me real hard in the stomach. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get you. And then he ran away.
Oh.
Well, like, I thought, what happened to the pit? I mean, I haven't been in a while, but I guess it's just all friendly now.
Well, as one of the greatest Americans of all time, Kid Rock once said, you just gotta you gotta get in the pit and try to love someone.
And on that note, we're gonna call it a night. Thank you guys for listening. God, the horror. Please follow Big Blue United on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us, BBU Podboys with a Z on Twitter, Pigskin Podnet. You download the DraftKings app and use promo code TPPN. Don't forget to check out FOCO.com. We miss you, Dan.
143.
Bye. Peace.